I recommend the translators. They are doing a fantastic job. So please don't be shy. Please ask for a headphone. It will be really great. And I just want to know how to get my slides to work. Oh, yeah. And that's the end. Yeah. Very good. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me here. Oh, sorry. Just need to... I see. Got it. I understand that identity is about who you are as an individual and who you are as a community, as a city. Brand is who you want to be. It's what you would like to become. Now, I am not a marketing person. I am, as you heard, a person from the world of culture. And the world of culture is full of artists and arts producers like me who care a lot about identity, but often we are rather suspicious about brand and marketing. So I learnt differently when I was working for the London 2012 Olympics, and my job was the Director of Culture. And that was when I began to think differently about the idea of brand, because for London and the UK, the Olympics was an enormous chance to tell the world not just who we were, who we are, our identity, but also who we want to be, what our values are, what we believe in our heart, what we want to build for the future. And that is not about marketing, in my view. You won't be surprised to hear this. It is actually about art and artists. So that's the end of the marketing images, beautiful though they are. And now I want to move on to art. For London 2012 Olympics, this is very obvious, you will know it. The sport, of course, is the heart of the Olympics, and by the way, shares those qualities of ambition and aspiration that are vital for every artist. Every sports person, every artist, they want the same. They want to be the best in the world. They want to make the new amazing thing. But the sport in the Olympics is the same in any city in the world. The 100 meters race looks the same in any city in the world. There will be a stadium. People will run very fast. Actually, you won't know which city it was in unless you are one of those real experts who remembers who won and by how many seconds. It is the culture, actually, that will define the Olympics for a city. And looking back at some of the most important, successful Olympics, Barcelona is a very obvious one. People came away from the Barcelona Olympics and they had a new image of Barcelona as a cultural city. And this was, of course, partly true. Of course, it was in the identity of the city, but also it was in the ambition of the city. It was in the plan of the city. They used the Olympics in Barcelona to tell the world about themselves. So, for London 2012 and for the Hollandfestival, I inherit a very rich identity, a cultural identity, but I'm now going to show you some slides and talk a little bit about some of the values that I invited artists to bring, both to the Hollandfestival and to London 2012. And these values said, I hope, something about the city as a brand. So the first value is about art in public places. And it, most importantly, is about the opportunity to see free art, art that you do not have to pay a ticket for, and to see art that is not in a place of great beauty, like a theatre or an opera house or a concert hall, but maybe a place that some people in your community think is a fortress. They think it is a castle that they cannot get into, and that they would not know the rules of how to behave. Of course, they are wrong. the people that run your opera houses, your concert halls, your museums, your galleries, your theatres, they are welcoming people. But often the architecture and the codes and the education has taught some people in the community something different. Out here, in a public park in Amsterdam, there are no rules. The place does not belong to any individual section of the community. This is a piece of work by the American artist Liam Gillick. It was one of the largest pieces of work, public art, ever commissioned in Amsterdam. It was his largest piece of work, and it was something that everyone could join in. It was a very easy to experience piece of work by a very complex and very well-established international artist. One of my main principles to suggest to you is when you offer a program of free art, of public art, you can invite the best artists in the world, the most complex, sophisticated artists in the world, because actually your public, your communities are smarter than you think, and they can cope with complexity. They can cope with modern, complicated forms of art. And when it's free, they will not complain to you. They will not ask for their money back. They actually will take the adventure. They will risk some of their time to find out the best art in the world. We had, in the London 2012 Olympics, an artist called Tino Segal. He is not well known. He lives in Berlin. He is an art house artist, I would say. 1.6 million people saw his work in the London 2012 festival. And this changed their lives. Another artist here, Rick Ritt, he played this year to 10,000 people in 3 weeks in the Holland Festival with a very simple piece. Oh, sorry. Of course, there is also room to do more traditional forms of free art, easy things like live streaming opera in the park, something the Holland Festival has always done. But here is another example of a surprising form of art. This is an Argentinian artist. He offered an experience, yes, for one person at a time to go to bed with an actor and have a story that lasted only 10 minutes. But of course, as well as the one person in the bed, there were hundreds of people taking pictures. Hundreds, maybe thousands. And this is, I think, a really beautiful example of how art can change the life of an individual. I promise you, none of these people ever forgot this piece of art. But also, it can begin to change the image, the story of a city. This is perhaps not exactly the story of Amsterdam that you are used to thinking about. And I think there is, of course, it is striking. You, I hope, will remember it. That's my job as a festival director, to take you out of your normal comfort and to show you artists who make you think, make you laugh, make you question perhaps a little bit. This is in front of the Royal Palace, by the way. This was another program about second-generation refugees, immigrants, migrants, working in Amsterdam to share the stories of their family life, put on bus posters in bus stations and bus stops, as well as just on the advertising posters of the city. Again, this reaches more people than would ever come to a gallery. It's something that you who own the city, who can control the images that are put up in the city, it's a very easy way to change the way in which you are talking to your communities. This is not marketing, this is art. In London 2012, we also used, and again at the Holland Festival, we think about the internet as a medium for artists. So this is an opera that you can download. It is an app. It's called The Book of Sand. You can still download it. It is seen by people all over the world. It's a great piece of work, actually, by Dutch composer Michel van der Aar. It's saying a different thing to different audiences about the Holland Festival, as well as being a great piece of art. The messaging, I don't need to spell out for you, but the messaging actually to those that might find it are quite rich about who we are as a festival, who Michel van der Aar is as a composer, what the city of Amsterdam is about. That's another digital piece we did this year. This was a first night party. It didn't exist, actually. The first night party happened in a studio with some of the great DJs of the Netherlands, but you could only experience it on a device in your home. So for me, my first night party at the first Holland Festival, what I was saying, and this is about the brand of the Holland Festival, is I don't have a first night party that is just for the people in the suits and for the rich and the famous. I have a first night party that is for you in your home. Please, will you have a first night party in your house with me? An interesting experiment. This is from London 2012, and it's a good example of the way in which an artist can help you define your values. Deborah Warner and Fiona Shaw are British artists, famous artists, and they were inspired by the Olympic peace. The technical term is Olympic truce. So back in ancient Greece, I'm sure you know this, back in ancient Greece, every time they held the Olympics, all of the states agreed to stop having a war so that everyone could travel to the Olympics without being killed. A very practical point for the Olympics. This still happens, and the United Nations has a resolution for the Olympic truce before every Olympic Games. Of course, this is something that inspired quite a lot of the artists for London 2012. And this piece was called Peace Camp. It's a series of tents, and in each tent, the greatest actors are murmuring the greatest love poetry in the British language, except they aren't really there. It's a sound installation. But this is, White Park Bay is in Northern Ireland, a region that is not known for its beautiful beaches, it's known for war. And the Northern Ireland Tourist Board chose to be a partner on this project because subliminally, the messaging, of course, is that Northern Ireland is a very beautiful place, and it's a place of peace now. It's not the image that you used to understand. But I have an important point here to make. So if I had said to Deborah Warner and Fiona Shaw, we'd like to use you to market Northern Ireland tourism and help message some new important realities about Northern Ireland, they would have said, no, we are artists, we don't do this. So my job as an artistic leader and producer is to protect and support the artist. It's to work with you to meet your needs, but it's to make sure the artist is free to develop the piece they want to develop. You can see here what a beautiful piece it was and how powerful a message I think it made. Its images continue, by the way, to go around the world, of course, on the internet. We used a lot of landmarks in the UK because the London 2012 Festival was not just in London, it was all over the UK. And thinking about the minister talking about the region, it's much harder, of course, in an entire country. There is a reason why most festivals happen in cities. Cities are much easier to define and celebrate. So we took some exceptional places around the UK. This is Stonehenge, and we invited exceptional artists. These are French artists, and they basically set fire to Stonehenge, which as a United Nations heritage site was a bold thing to do. Of course, we used artists of all forms, and that is important. We've heard a lot about Pokemon this morning. And it is important to use artists and artistic and cultural forms across all of the areas of art and culture, not just the traditional areas. This was part of a residency by some of the greatest pop musicians in the world and the biggest pop concert that the BBC had ever organised in Hackney, one of the most deprived sections of London. The crime rate went down the weekend that this concert happened. The concert was free. The workshops were free. The crime rate went down. That's a very hard outcome, I think. Jeremy Deller is an artist who makes sculptures. He made a life-size Stonehenge, again, that same landmark. It was free, it toured around the country, and now it's touring around the world, actually, and everyone comes and bounces on it. It is for children of all ages. And this is an interesting one. This is all of this is London 2012. Piccadilly Circus, we made it into a circus. The name is circus. So we created a circus for Piccadilly Circus. We closed the circus for the first time since 1945. We created a free event for 100,000 people, which ended with the angels flying above the circus and dropping 10 tons of feathers in a feather fight of angels. More French circus stars, actually. And what I think is great about this is, again, the images went round the world and they still go round the world. And what this says about London, subliminally, is this is no longer a city of fog and Sherlock Holmes and Jack the Ripper and Burberry raincoats where it's always dark and always raining. This is a new place. It's a fun place. It's an imaginative, creative place. That was an important message for us, and it's a place that welcomes artists from all over the world. Not only artists from every country playing in the games, we welcomed artists who came from countries not recognized, who were refugees. We were the first Olympics to put the homeless on the stage. Very important, and something I'm proud to say Rio has done as well. Here's some American artists who were walking down landmarks. I'll just go back to that for a minute. And Elizabeth Streb, they walked down, this is the mayor's office, they danced along the London Eye, they jumped off in Trafalgar Square, they created a fountain of living people falling down in Trafalgar Square. They are the most extraordinary company, but they showed the city in a way that we had never seen before. My second point, if my first point is artists can reveal and help you understand what your brand could be and show it not just to your people for free, but also to the world. My second point is about the way that artists help you create new partnerships. One of the things we have done in the Hollandfestival is create a new program of world-class concerts for only €10, where we invite the community to join in playing with world-class musicians. This was a piece for 274 bassoon players, from the best soloists in the world to young people who were just starting the bassoon. Again, I don't need to tell you the messaging of that. It's powerful, it's obvious, but it's quite different for the festival and in a way for the Concertgebouw concert hall, which is where this took place. Africa Express brought us, again, a masterpiece with African musicians, many of them unable now to live in their country, playing, though, a minimalist American masterpiece, again, in this great concert hall. We had a partnership with the Moroccan community in Amsterdam, where we, again, combined some of the greatest artists in the world. The Gnawa Oulad Sidi Ensemble live in Paris, and they are drawn from different Moroccan musical traditions, but they do a traditional Gnawa. It lasts 9 hours. It's really fantastic. But they worked with local musicians in the Moroccan quarter of Amsterdam. This is a very important way for me of developing a partnership that brings ownership from the very community who are experts in Gnawas. They know much more than I do, but who also bring skills of their own to amplify the international artists that we bring. It's a different way of working, but it's a way in which you can change your brand by using ingredients in your identity, in the DNA of your city. There's the Gnawa again. Again, another example. Back to London 2012, we asked children from all over the UK to work with Aardman, who make Wallace and Gromit. And they created a movie. They're in the Guinness Book of Records, as actually is my bassoon concerto. 274 bassoon players also in the Guinness Book of Records. Every single image in this film is made by a different child. They all created it together. We talked about the Paralympics, and one of the most important aspects of the London 2012 festival was to push people to think about artists and great artists from all areas, all sections of society. I've already talked about the homeless, about the immigrants, the people with no countries. We did the first and largest festival of disabled art, Unlimited, where we commissioned disabled artists to create world-class work. And our aim was to show that disabled artists, like disabled athletes, should be admired and respected, not pitied. This is Sue Austin. It was a remarkable piece. The Unlimited programme, again, I'm very proud to say that continues every year now in the UK, and many of the artists that we developed went to Rio for the Paralympics cultural programme now. Of course, we also did traditional art in London 2012, and this is a world premiere of Stockhausen's masterpiece. As you know, he wrote 7 operas, one for each day of the week. The only one that had never been staged was Mittwoch als Licht. Everyone said it was impossible to stage. And of course, once in a lifetime you get the chance, if you're an arts producer, to try the impossible. So we staged this opera, 5 hours long. It has 2 choirs, it has an orchestra hanging from the ceiling, it has 3 camels and 4 helicopters, real helicopters. One of my best tweets of the London 2012 festival was when the Birmingham police, who have a Twitter account for their community, which is interesting, I don't know how many cities here do, they tweeted to say, if you're in the centre of town, you notice the helicopters, don't worry, no problem, they're just rehearsing an opera. Which I think is fantastic. It was a real partnership with Birmingham. And the important thing about this, for this conference, is Birmingham supported this project. It put them on the map. They are in the history books. It got journalists coming from every continent in the world. It got ticket buyers coming from every continent in the world. It was one of the largest cultural events that Birmingham has put on for years. And I think that it is incredibly important to see the way in which culture can communicate to the world. By the way, a quick plug. We are trying now, planning, hoping, scoping. I'm not allowed to say we are doing because we're not yet, but we are exploring whether at the Hollandfestival with our partners we could put on the whole of Licht, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. No one has ever done this. It is apparently impossible. It's even more unstageable and impossible than Mittwoch. But I am determined that we should have a go, because what would that say about Amsterdam? If one opera becomes a destination for Birmingham, what would staging the whole of Stockhausen's Licht do for Amsterdam and actually, of course, for Stockhausen? So I'm here to say to you that artists can help you make the link from identity to brand. They can help you see how the values of your communities, how the value of your identity can be translated into a brand. They can get you from the present to the future. Just as when in 1947, the people of Amsterdam, who had many hardships, of course, invested their money in inviting international artists to show them the future, to inspire them for the future. So I believe artists today can be a key magic tool for you in building your brand, in partnership with your community, and of course in partnership with your cultural institutions, because you need people like me to protect the artist and make sure that they can let their imagination run free. I ended with an opera called The End. The star is Hatsune Miku. She doesn't exist. She does the warm-up for Lady Gaga, but she is an electronic, vocaloid pop star. That means her voice is constructed from hundreds of different people singing. She has a repertoire of 100,000 songs. And if you were a 14-year-old girl with green hair, you would know her well. But she has appeared now in both my first 2 festivals, and for me, she's not just the end of my presentation, she is a symbol of the way in which culture can change perception and build brand. Thank you very much.
Thank you.